Good evening. The meeting of the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority Board of Directors is now called to order at 6:32. Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Kenneth.
Here.
Director Matthews.
Here.
Director Chapman. Here. Director Sutherland.
Here.
Director Ming Hyde is not present. Director Dominguez is not present, and Director Gill is not present, but we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, any members of the public will have the opportunity to address the board on any item not on the agenda. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Clerk, do we have any commenters?
If there are any participants joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on any item not on the agenda, you may raise your hand and I will call on you. There are none.
Thank you. And now I'd like to move on to the approval of the April 23rd board meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Also.
Moved by Director Kenneth, second by Director Chapman. Any public comments? None?
There are none.
Thank you. And clerk, please call the vote.
Director Kenneth.
Yes.
Director Matthews.
Yes.
Director Chapman.
Yes.
Director Sutherland.
Yes. With 4 yeses, that passes unanimous. Thank you very much. And now, we have the consent items. And so I believe that we need to pull item C5. Will somebody be speaking about that?
Good evening, Madam Chair. The item is pulled. Staff is recommending that the board just pull it from the agenda. It'll appear on a future agenda.
Wonderful. And so other than that, are there any other items that board members would like to discuss on the consent items?
I move to approve.
I do have one. Sorry. I would like to pull item C3. And so I'd like a motion to approve the consent items, deferring C5 and pulling C3 for further discussion. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve as amended.
Second. Second by Director Matthews, moved by Director Kenneth. Are there any public comment?
If there are any members of the public joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on the consent calendar, please raise your hand and I will call on you. We have one. Augustine, you may unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm having trouble reading the original slide there. I'm interested in commenting on the battery storage facility item. So if this is the wrong time, I can lower.
Yes, we will get to that point a little bit later in the agenda.
Great, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
So clerk, can you please call the vote?
Yes. Let me get this.
And just for clarification, do I discuss C3 after we vote on the approval of the existing?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, I am ready. Director Kenneth,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Sutherland.
Yes. And that passes unanimously. And then regarding item C3, my comment was if staff could include the departments above the spreadsheet. So it says more than ADMIN and COM. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Director Sutherland. On Justina's behalf, we will take that note and improve our formatting going forward.
Thank you. I had to keep on looking.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So with that suggestion that staff be more, provide the full name of the department, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve item C3.
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure you call for public comment as well.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
If there's any members of the public joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on item C3, please raise your hand. There are none.
Okay, I move approval of item C3.
Thank you. Second? Okay, moved by Director Chapman, seconded by Director Matthews. Please call the vote.
Director Kennett.
Yes.
Director Matthews.
Yes.
Director Chapman. Yes. Director Sutherland.
Yes. Thank you very much. That passes unanimous. We will start with old business. Members of the public will have the opportunity to comment on this item following the presentation by staff and board questions. Speakers will be limited to, how many speakers do we have? We have one here.
I have 3 cards, and then plus at least one on your Zoom.
Okay, so I think we should limit this to 2 minutes.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Mark Landgraf, Assistant General Manager. So good evening, directors, members of the public, staff. Tonight's presentation constitutes a continuation of the agenda item from last board meeting on April 23rd regarding a proposed utility scale battery storage facility in North Coyote Valley. As you'll recall, at that meeting, your board requested staff to come back with a draft resolution of opposition to the project. Staff has done so, and we thank Lena Drape especially for drafting the resolution of opposition. She's our conservation policy specialist. And we are presenting that resolution to you here tonight. But before we go to the resolution, we did want to do a brief recap of the information for everybody's benefit, just as a refresher. So if I can, there we go. So you'll probably recognize this map. It's the same one we had in the presentation a month ago. The map shows Coyote Valley. The protected properties are shown in dark green and lighter green. Those in darker green are ones owned or managed by the Open Space Authority. The black dashed outline shows the AB 948 Coyote Valley Conservation Program area. And the red rectangle shows the property on which there is a proposed battery storage facility. The battery storage would be 350 megawatts and an approximately 40-acre site within that 126-acre property. So a little bit of history on this proposal. On October 31st in 2022, AES, which is the company that is proposing the battery storage project, they submitted a preliminary review request by the city of San Jose to assess whether a rezoning would allow a battery storage project and associated transmission facilities. The city's planning department had stated at that time that the project is inconsistent with zoning and multiple general plan policies and would likely recommend denial. In 2025, AES approached the Open Space Authority to share their intentions to submit an application to the California Energy Commission, also abbreviated as CEC, using a bill called AB 205. That was legislation passed in 2022 that allows bypassing of local zoning and land use if it is for green energy projects that meet certain criteria. We don't know yet what the site plans look like, but to give everyone an idea of what the project could potentially look like based on the verbal descriptions that we've received, the inset on this slide shows a similar type of proposal in Solano County with shipping containers housing the batteries themselves. So since that initial meeting in 2025, AES has met with Open Space Authority staff and a subset of board members twice, so a total of 3 meetings with AES. During that time, AES indicated that they plan to connect to the Metcalf substation through underground lines and connect to the PG&E Metcalf substation via an already obtained large generator interconnect agreement, or LGIA. Our understanding is that there's currently no power purchase agreement in place, which is required for the project. And a power purchase agreement is an agreement from a buyer of the power that the battery would generate. On January 6th of 2025, the authority submitted a letter to the California Energy Commission formally requesting participation in the pre-filing consultation as a relevant agency given the proposed project's location within the Coyote Valley Conservation Program area and its being adjacent to proposed wildlife crossing infrastructure. It's these most complicated of tasks that really throw me. I'm trying to get to the next slide. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So this is a view of the proposed site for that battery storage. So this view is from North Coyote Valley Hill near the intersection of Bailey and Santa Teresa, looking east towards Coyote Ridge. And the site is the area of farmland in the middle distance in the center of the photo, just beyond a row of trees in the middle foreground. So that is where the site would be located. And as you could tell, since the Open Space Authority is considering concept alternatives through its Coyote Valley master planning effort, including public access to the top of this hill, that battery storage would definitely be seen from this site. In addition to that, of course, there are a number of community benefits that Coyote Valley is currently and will in the future provide to the region that would be negatively impacted by the battery storage facility. So Coyote Valley, as I mentioned before, is within the Coyote Valley Conservation Program area, which means that that area of 17,000 some acres is designated by the state of California as a landscape of statewide significance. It's also completely surrounded by protected open space. It's in a critical wildlife connectivity region. It's an area that is serving downstream communities for by flood risk reduction, groundwater recharge. The site is on prime farmland. I have a little more information about that here shortly, and will serve the public through nature-oriented public access. All of these would be eroded by the battery storage project. Are you helping me with that? No, but that's great if you were. I think I need a little assistance with that slide stuff. Anyway, so as shown here in the rectangle in red, kind of in the upper left of that map, almost the entire portion of that proposed site is prime farmland. And then in the magenta arrows to the north of that site, those are the areas where there's currently feasibility study underway for wildlife infrastructure, which could be undercrossings or overcrossing. That has yet to be determined. But that infrastructure is supported by a number of different partners. The Peninsula Open Space Trust is leading that feasibility study, but it also is being done through funding from Caltrans, VTA, San Jose Department of Transportation, and the Wildlife Conservation Board. And so the point here being that it's not just the physical infrastructure location that's important to consider here, but the surrounding area where any industrial scale facility in the region can have a negative impact on wildlife movement in the region. So also important to note that the AES site is adjacent to Tulare Meadows, which is immediately to the north of that red rectangle, and that's a site owned by the city of San Jose, in which it invested $46 million from its 2018 Measure T for natural infrastructure, primarily flood risk reduction. So that would be negatively impacted as well. Stepping back, I did that one on my own. The data shows the state has flexibility in making siting decisions. Across the Bay Area, there are about 2,100 megawatts of battery storage either planned or already operating. The identified regional need is about 1,350 megawatts. So that puts the pipeline at roughly 158% of need. Now, there may be some of these projects that are in flux, but the point here being that there is quite a bit of storage being developed. So it calls into question the need for the Jewel Flower project in this area itself. So from a local perspective, the city of San Jose has not identified a need for this facility, and the project introduces significant local impacts without clear local benefit. And based on recent discussions, the power from facilities like this is expected to serve broader grid needs in the state, such as those in Southern California, not necessarily demand within our local region. So then summarizing what we're describing here and what's included in the draft resolution of opposition is that this proposed project would negatively impact wildlife connectivity, agriculture, public access, downstream flood risk reduction, other water resource benefits, significantly eroding these existing community benefits. It would be contrary to state statute identifying Coyote Valley as a landscape of statewide significance for a variety of conservation values, and it would undermine state and local conservation investment to the tune of around $150 million in Coyote Valley itself, and would erode existing community benefits. So with that, the staff recommendation is to approve the resolution of opposition that is before you. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the great presentation, and thank you to staff for doing the follow-up work and coming back to us with a draft resolution. There are a couple of board members who've been deeply engaged on this issue, and so I'd like to give them the first opportunity to speak. Director Chapman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. And I'm very happy to see members of the public here tonight. First of all, I do want to comment, you know, that I was part of the 3 meetings with AES, and I do appreciate that they made the attempt to outreach with us and to have a dialogue and to listen to our concerns. Sometimes that doesn't always happen, and you know, in the projects, but I have some overriding concerns that I don't believe that AES was able to address in any of those meetings that we had. The very first meeting we had, we asked them right off the bat, you know, what kind of mitigation are you proposing to the authority? What are you willing to work with us on? And they did not have an answer. And last time we got an answer, and I believe, Mark, you said that was in 2025. So the last meeting we had, which was a couple of weeks ago, fast forward 6 months, now they have sort of a concept of an idea that they might be able to work with us. So that didn't sit very well. So again, I appreciate the members of the public that are here. I also appreciate the letters that we received to the board. We don't always get a lot of community input, which, you know, for an agency that we work really hard, we're really lean and we're trying to do the best we can for the public. Hearing from you is really, really important to us because we're here to represent your concerns, your wishes. And, you know, this property is probably very close to where you live, not close to where I live, but so you know, that's top of mind when I'm making a decision, is I'm going to keep your concerns in my mind. I just want to clarify for everybody here. My understanding is the city's position has not changed, right?
So through the chair, yeah, that's our understanding as well. We've had relatively recent conversations with the city and their position has been the same.
Could you just reiterate for the public what the city's position is?
Yeah, as I mentioned, when the city was approached back in 2023, the city said it's inconsistent with their zoning and land use. And that zoning and land use is agriculture and open space. That was determined in 2021 and it remains the same.
And for members of the public, I worked for the council member at the time when that designation was done in 2019 and in 2021. So I have a personal investment in making sure that we continue on with that work. So good, understanding the city's position hasn't changed, and also they are a contributor to, you know, through Measure T, right?
That's right, the 46 million that the city contributed, and they've contributed since then in some of the feasibility studies as well. And I do want to mention that AB 205, which is a state-run process, it does allow for input from the city of San Jose, from Open Space Authority, from other entities and members of the public.
Yes, could you explain that part of it? Because I think that's an important piece. People probably don't know about how, because I think the idea and what has been probably forecasted to people is that, well, the city's not involved, you know, we're gonna bypass the city's process and we're gonna go straight to the state level, but there is a process where the public can comment or members, you know, we got a letter from the legislator today, you know, from Ross Colorado, so, and I understand another legislator has weighed in, so how can people participate?
Yeah, thank you for that question again through the chair. So AB 205 was legislation passed in 2022, a very well-intentioned legislation that helps streamline green energy projects in the state of California. And it allows proponents to propose through application to the California Energy Commission projects like this. And but there is still a full review process. They have to go through CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. And so there is a, you know, often year-long or multi-year process that the CEC goes through. And that does allow for that input of local voices as well as those from the state legislature. Director Chapman, you just mentioned a letter that we just received today from Assemblymember Ash Kalra in support of the board's consideration of a resolution of opposition. And previously, Senator Cortese and Assemblymember Pellerin also sent in letters to the California Energy Commission directly with a CC to us.
Thank you. As I say, this project conflicts with decades of public and private investment and voter-supported conservation in Coyote Valley. I mean, we voted for Measure T, right? That passed with 80-something%. To date, 1,700 acres have been protected for conservation on the valley floor, which represents over $150 million in investment. Industrial scale infrastructure is incompatible with the ecological agriculture, public access, and climate resilience benefits that these lands were protected to provide, let alone our water quality, wildlife connectivity. So I am fully supportive of the staff recommendation to go forward with an opposition on this project. Thank you.
So,
Director Ken.
yeah, I too was part of that meeting, those meetings. Excuse me. We all agree if there's not need for battery storage today, there's gonna be need for battery storage in the future. but not there. So, so the whole idea was, and we just didn't tell them, just go away. We actually did some research. We showed them some options for different areas within the city of San Jose. And they basically poo-pooed it. They just, said, it's our way or the highway. Okay. So that really puts them in an interesting position. By the way, is there anybody here from AES tonight? That by itself says a lot. Because we'd like to see the project, but not there. So we gave them options. So far they came back, we mentioned that what they can do for us, and they offered us a kind of sort of, they bought 120 acres and they're gonna occupy 40 of those 120 acres. My number's correct?
So through the chair, technically, we understand that they have an option on the property of the 126 acres, and they would build on 40 acres, and it's unclear what they would do with the remainder.
Sounds like a definite maybe. So, we're not going. And, you covered most of it. If there's any otherwise, and when the time comes, I'd like to be the person who is, the one who makes the motion when it's appropriate to do so.
Thank you, Director Kennett. Director Matthews?
Well, I'm supportive of the resolution to oppose this, and I thank our colleagues for taking the lead and meeting and getting a lot more information and making our views known. The irony does not escape me that, this general idea of electrical power is a good one, but we've spent way too much time and way too much money, and our commitment is so solid that we cannot possibly support this.
Thank you. And my comments would be thank you for the resolution. It's very thorough. And thank you to the community members who've come out to speak in support of the resolution. We really do appreciate you engaging on this. It shows that there's community support to oppose this. So thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to call members of the public up to speak, unless there are any other questions from the board. You okay, Mark?
Okay.
Okay.
Through the chair, should we take the public comments of the participants present and then move on to Zoom?
I would like to, thank you. So the first one would be Joni Murphy, and Joni, you have 2 minutes. 2 minutes, okay.
Thank you, everybody, for allowing public to speak. I represent a lot of people in my area tonight, even though a lot of people aren't here. I personally only found out about this battery storage facility plan last night. And a lot of it was through Green Foothills, who is advocating also for opposing this battery facility. It's kind of an oxymoron anyway, that it's a quote green energy battery storage facility when we're trying to protect the green space. And it truly is. It's kind of ironic, and it's just the wrong place. You said it before. It's not the right place for such a project. I've sent in a letter through Green Foothills too, with many of the reasons why, but you guys have researched it yourself as well. But I just wanted to say tonight that I represent many people. Every person that's here tonight in opposition to this battery storage facility represents many people, even though many people can't be here. They're just trying to put food on the table. So I thank you very much. And on another note, I hope that you keep working to oppose the Heritage Oak Cemetery project and crematory. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next card I have is for Lisa Voss. Lisa, would you like to, you have 2 minutes? Okay. Thank you. And then I guess if you could say which organization you're with, that'd be fantastic.
Okay. Good evening. I'm speaking as a member of a parent-led committee at Charter School of Morgan Hill, formed in opposition to AES's BESS proposal, who is calling on you to pass the resolution opposing BESS in Coyote Valley. A fellow parent committee member drafted a petition opposing this proposed project site that has so far garnered approximately 2,800 signatures. Many community members are incredulous and even angry that a location in the heart of Coyote Valley is even being considered because it is completely surrounded by legally recognized sensitive receptors, including our kinder through 8th grade elementary and middle school campus, as well as several of the OSA's protected lands, including wetlands, which are all literally across the road. Furthermore, it's a tone-deaf choice, as for already a decade, the valley has been subject to extensive community-wide democratic deliberation via our local governmental institutions as to its appropriate agricultural zoning and role as a special wildlife habitat and corridor. As mentioned in the excellent presentation, Santa Clara County taxpayers have invested large sums for this preservation. I'm going to skip all this part. We did not do that so that AB 205 could create a loophole, granting a private company the power to override local democracy and buy up cheaper agricultural land for use as industrial. Some additional points are when operating, noise and industrial pollution from a 40-acre, 350 megawatt BESS would compromise the health and the learning environment of the students and staff, as well as wildlife health. Charter's campus also hosts an extraordinary agricultural studies animal care program, the infrastructure and livestock for which must be taken into account. This BESS would emit up to 70 to 85 A-weighted decibels when standing right next to it, comparable to a loud vacuum cleaner or washing machine. An acoustic enclosure or, oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joe Awanami. My. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Hello, hi. I've been in residence here in Santa Clara County for 40 years. And we live over in Curry and we drive down Santa Teresa Hill all the way down to go to the library almost every week. And it's a beautiful area and we really would not like a BESS plant there. First of all, it'd be pretty ugly. And second of all, it would destroy the beauty of the area and the necessary and just we are not very happy with this decision. And when we drive down there in wintertime, it gets very wet and it's flooded. Now you're going to put a battery plant on top of that. And that's worrisome because if there's any moisture in the batteries, it will explode. And there's been explosions, I think, over in Watsonville area and stuff like that. So it's dangerous for our area. We live very close to the city. So we definitely do not approve of this plant. And we thank you for your resolution to try and stop this. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker we have is Nita Patel.
Well, I've got my
Nita,
Coyote Valley.
Would you like to introduce yourself and the organization you're with?
Yeah, sorry, my handwriting's terrible. My name is Smita Patel and I'm here partly to represent Green Foothills, which I just love. And also because we've lived here in Los Paseos, right up next to Tulare Hill for 37 years and fought for Coyote Valley all these years since Cisco wanted to build their power plant. And if all else fails, tell them there's a curse on Coyote Valley and anyone who builds there goes bankrupt, because that's what happened to Bechtel, if you remember, after Calpine was built. But the speakers already have made all the practical, logical arguments. I agree with all of them. So I'm not going to belabor that. I just want to say Moss Landing, pollution, they're still cleaning that up. And this is so much denser a place. You know, it closed the freeway, the highway there, it caused so much disruption. Imagine if that happens here. And we have fought, and thank you, OSA and OSA board, because you all have been such leaders for protecting and preserving Coyote Valley. When we moved here, there was no interest in protecting it among our leaders. You know, it was all about let's expand and build big campuses there. And the whole change in mindset is thanks to the advocacy and the work of all of you. And I just think we've come so far, so we can't give up now. So here to say thank you and please.
Thank you very much. I think that unless there's somebody else who wants to speak who has a card, then I think we'll go to online.
Okay, we'll start with Augustine. You may unmute yourself and you have 2 minutes.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. I don't think I'll belabor the point because everybody already made a lot of the same points that I was going to make. I'll just add that as somebody who lives in the little green rectangle just south of where that red rectangle is, yeah, I think that it's sort of an outlandish proposal for all of the reasons, you know, in terms of like what the open space's declared mission is. And then, of course, there's the safety aspect, which I think is like a public health thing. As we've said, like there's tons of documentation out there about how loud these things are actually. So as somebody who lives somewhat close to one, I would imagine that would be pretty bad. And not to mention all the, you know, the other people in the area and schools, et cetera. So that's concerning. And then that little bit about the undeclared use of the rest of the property is pretty suspicious to me as well. Just because I could think of a few types of facilities that would definitely benefit from a large power bank, like a data center, for example. So I think it's, you know, I don't want to be like a, you know, fall for the slippery slope fallacy, but I think this is a terrible idea. And like, if it were to pass, it would be atrocious. So I really do appreciate your resolution to stand against it. And yeah, thanks for that. And I think that's it. I'll give back my time.
Thank you very much. After Augustine.
Next, we'll go to the caller whose number ends with 8366. If you could please state your name, and you have 2 minutes. Caller, with the phone number that ends with 8366, you may unmute. I'm sorry, we cannot hear you. Okay, we'll move on to Eric Marshall, and then we can come back after you resolve your audio issue. Eric Marshall, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Eric Marshall, and I'm a parent of children at the Charter School of Morgan Hill, which sits directly across Monterey Road from the proposed site of this AES Jewel Flower BESS facility. I want to thank the authority, its board, and staff for their efforts so far in opposition to the Jewel Flower development. I would also like to encourage the authority to continue those efforts, including by passing the resolution of opposition to the BESS facility. Thank you for your time and your protection and stewardship of the lands of the Santa Clara Valley.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, caller, you may hit *6 to unmute yourself. Caller whose number ends in 8366.
I'm sorry. This is Marilyn Peak, and I agree with everyone else. And thank you for all the work you do, and for doing all the work to oppose this, to do the resolution to oppose this effort to build a battery storage facility in open space. It is totally the wrong place, and it really dismisses all the things that were brought up as benefits to, you know, the people here in the entire Bay Area. and to the wildlife, everything. So, I just really wanted to thank you. Hello?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are
Can you
any,
hear me?
oh, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If there are any other members of the public joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on this item, you may raise your hand and I will call out your name. There are none.
Thank you very much. Before I ask for a motion, I did want to give a shout out to Director Dominguez. At the last meeting when this item came before us, she asked for a resolution from staff, and her leadership and thoughtfulness on this, I think is commendable, and she can't be here tonight, but I did want to note that the work she did was very admirable on this. And with that, I'd like to know if I have a motion.
You certainly do. For me, I move to approve the motion.
And I will heartily second the motion.
Thank you. Moved by Director Kennett, seconded by Director Chapman. And clerk, can we please call the vote?
Yes. And I will just repeat the motion. Motion to approve resolution of opposition to the 40-acre AES Jewel Flower Battery Storage Systems project proposed to be sited within the state designated Coyote Valley Conservation Program area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Director Kennett,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Sutherland.
Yes. That passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we're gonna go on to new business. We okay? Members of the public will have the opportunity to comment on any matter on the new business items following the presentation by staff and board questions. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. New business item number 1 is the authorization for the general manager or assistant general manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement and license and management agreement with Peninsula Open Space Trust for 418 acres in Coyote Valley. Assessors parcel numbers 712-03-009, 712-04-098, 712-19-006, -07, 712-20-001, -004, -005, 712-21-004, 006, 712-28-021. And I believe that Megan will be giving us a presentation. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, directors. And Kathy, you had the hard part just now going through all those APS. Thank you. On the screen, you'll see Alexandra McCoy was originally scheduled to give this presentation. She was unable to be here, so I'm filling in on her behalf. Megan Dreger, Conservation and Strategic Partnerships Manager. So tonight, she, as the title mentions, seek authorization to execute a purchase and sale agreement, or PSA, to purchase approximately 418 acres of the Mid-Coyote Valley from Peninsula Open Space Trust. As the board knows, the authority has been working closely with our partners, including Post, to conserve land in Coyote Valley. Coyote Valley remains one of the region's most important conservation landscapes, supporting wildlife connectivity, flood resilience, groundwater recharge, agriculture, and future public access opportunities. And we've been hugely successful, as the map here indicates, a lot of green on the map for conserved lands. To date, approximately 135 million has been invested in the conservation within the Coyote Valley Conservation Area on that valley floor. And the authority now owns or manages over 1,600 acres of the valley floor, as can be seen here on this map. This slide kind of focusing on the Mid-Coyote Valley, which is the area to the south, illustrates how this transaction is going to build on past acquisitions and past board actions. So the Mid-Coyote Valley area that's in orange and purple there, you might recall, we originally thought this was going to be one big transaction back in 2024. But that was when the state's budget situation went from surplus to deficit, and some of the funding was no longer available. So we had to pivot and change our plans a bit. So we ended up doing it in 2 phases. The first phase was completed back in 2025, and that's what's in purple on the screen now. That was 142 acres. And we saved the remaining acres until we raised the funds needed. The orange sort of hashed section there is the parcel. That's what we're talking about tonight. That is the 337 acres that were delayed from that original, what we thought we were going to do back in 2024, plus the addition of the 80 acres of Midway Fields that Post just closed on in January of this year. So that brings it up to the total of approximately 418 acres altogether. Protection of these lands is critical to the long-term restoration vision of the Fisher Creek corridor and supports the broader landscape linkage vision identified by the authority and by Post. I'll note the properties also remain important to ongoing agricultural uses and future planning efforts through the Coyote Valley Conservation Area's Master Plan, or CV Camp process, which is currently underway. Getting into the transaction itself, the purchase price is $14.5 million. We anticipate that this will be entirely funded by a grant from the Coastal Conservancy. This would use Prop 4 funds. That, as you'll recall, in the climate bond in Prop 4, there was a $25 million line item specifically for the Coyote Valley Conservation Program area. So this would be the first time we'd be tapping into that fund that is specifically for the area. We believe that the legislature is going to allocate the funding and keep us on track, though it could be delayed a bit and not be passed with the original, the main portion of the state budget. If they choose to do that, the state budget, if it's passed in June and this was not part of it, we anticipate that it would be soon thereafter and passes what they call a budget bill junior or a trailer bill, and that would be maybe through August. Close of escrow does specify that it's contingent on getting this funding. So if there are delays, it could delay the project, but we do anticipate the funding coming. The Coastal Conservancy requires an offer to dedicate. That's part of the property encumbrance, as well as Post, the conservation easement that we have over the other properties that we have transferred from Post would be extended onto these properties as well. With the exception, can you see my cursor? With the exception of these 2 long skinny parcels that are on the east side of Santa Teresa, those are not under the conservation easement because they have a more limited role in wildlife connectivity and they're more agricultural focused. So they give us more flexibility if they're not under the easement. Lastly, in terms of finances, I'll note that we have a $50,000 budget item that will be coming in the board's the next fiscal year budget request, and that is for the transaction costs, things like escrow costs, things like that for the expense. But other than those transaction details, again, all the rest of the money would be funded by external funding. Stewardship of the land. The authority currently manages all of these properties that are part of the transaction under existing license and management agreements that have been approved by this board. There are 5 leases that include cattle grazing, dry farmed hay, saffron farming, and habitat enhancement. These ongoing uses help maintain the agricultural character of the valley, while still also supporting interim land stewardship objectives. The current combined lease revenue is about $6,000 a year. And I'll note that while money is part of what happens, we get a lot of benefit from this type of lease, things like grazing, because of the benefits it brings for maintaining invasive species, fuel load, that kind of thing that helps with wildfire prevention. Future management, restoration, agricultural use, and public access planning for these lands will continue to be guided through the CV camp process. After the transaction is complete, the authority will receive that lease income that I mentioned and bear the full cost of future repair, maintenance, and stewardship of the properties. And over on the right is identified the ongoing stewardship for 3 of the properties, Midway Fields, Horet, and Kuzia, is expected to be about $25,000 a year. Chappelle is about $15,000 a year, normally with just that exception noted that just a one-time expense of about $70,000 as we're working to convert the land from what had been fruit trees into getting it set up for organic ready agriculture. And with that, the recommendation to authorize the general manager or assistant general manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement for these 418 acres in Coyote Valley with Peninsula Open Space Trust for $14.5 million.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Megan. I'd now like to open this up to the board for questions or comments. Director Kenneth?
I like buying stuff with other people's money. It's called leverage. So yeah, I'd like to see this stuff.
Thank you. Dr. Matthews?
Well, my compliments to the staff over the multi-year project. This must have been long before I came. And it's very exciting and very gratifying. So good job.
Director Chapman?
I have a question for Megan.
Sure, absolutely.
With this execution, it becomes ours. What are costs that will be incurred by us in the meantime until we move forward on CV camp and do the master planning process? If there are any maintenance costs or operation costs that we will need to incur?
Yeah, good question. And so on the far right here, combined all the properties is about $40,000 a year for under current status. That would be maintenance. The $70,000 being a one-time cost for just essentially converting from the trees to other kinds of agriculture. After this is near term, again, current uses. As CV camp moves through and we begin really making planning decisions of what's going where and what's happening, it could be that some of those costs change based on what happens on this land in the future.
Yeah, obviously during the priorities.
Yep.
Whatever pick, that goes that way. Okay, thank you. Oh, and the other, the wrong question. And this expense would fall into next year's budget, not this current one that we're. Oh.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, this transaction would be in next fiscal year. Primarily because the state, that 14.5 million is in next fiscal year's budget for the state. So we have to wait for the funding to be allocated. Yep.
I assume that, but I just want to.
Yes.
Thank you. And I would like to point out that there is a benefit to us grazing cattle. It does reduce the fuel load in our open spaces. And so there's an unidentified cost benefit to having cattle graze our property, right?
Yes.
And so we do want to keep them out there doing the work that they naturally do and helping us prevent wildfires.
Exactly.
Thank you. So I'm wondering if I have a motion to approve this item.
Through the chair, should we take public comment?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Carol.
If there are any members of the public joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand and I will call on you. There are none.
Thank you very much. Director Kennett, moved by Director Kennett, second. I'll second. By Director Chapman. And clerk, can you please call the vote?
Give us 1 second.
And I guess I could read that, but would be to authorize the general manager or the general manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement. Where'd it go? Go back. Purchase and sale agreement with the Peninsula Open Space Trust for 418 acres in Coyote Valley. The assessor's numbers have already been stated.
Director Kenneth,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Sutherland.
Yes. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Now on to new business item number 2, which is to provide feedback on the Urban Grant Program for 2025-2026 solicitation. And this is Jackie.
Good evening, directors. Yes, I'm Jackie McBride. I'm the Community Investment Specialist. Thank you to the members of the public that are here. Hi, staff. So this is a moment to reflect a little bit on the latest grant solicitation for the Urban Grant Program. So as you know, the Urban Grant Program is one of the ways that the Open Space Authority invests in where people live within our jurisdiction. A lot of exciting work happens through the Urban Grant Program, and it's one of the ways that the Open Space Authority lives out its mission to connect people to nature. And in this last solicitation, I'll just do a little review of what the board awarded back in March. The Board of Directors awarded $974,000 to 15 grantees, which is really exciting. This solicitation was for programs only, so programs that help connect people to nature. This could be through events, curriculum building, all sorts of different things, all under the theme of building a climate-strong future for all. 14 of these new grantees, 14 of this new batch of grantees are nonprofits. One of them is a school, and 10 of them are new to the Open Space Authority. As a review, this is the list of those 15 new awardees. I'm happy to say that a lot of them have already kicked off their project. This has been a really fast turnaround of getting projects going. So we've got people out doing projects this spring and summer, and I'm happy to talk about how that's going to go and come back to your board when we get reports in and learn about how that's all going. And I'm also excited to share that the dots on our map have grown as well. So this shows the investments in our jurisdiction for the 20% and Urban Grant Program. And if I had a comparison of before and after, you'd see a lot more dots now. So it's just a cool visual to see of all that impact, especially in the areas where people live, connecting those residents to nature in their neighborhoods. Shortly after the awards were made, we sent out a survey to any applicant to the grant program that did a pre-application or full application. We received 15 responses. Overall, the feedback has been really positive. We've had some good suggestions for improvement that we're happy to take into consideration for the next guidelines. And as always, we offer feedback for those who are not awarded. So I ended up meeting with 9 applicants that were not awarded to provide them feedback on how they might improve their application for future rounds. I include that because we also get some indirect feedback about the grant program through those meetings. And I would say that many of them gave great feedback about the process, about the transparency as well. Some of them might have also turned in a survey. But it's just good to know how we're perceived and how the Board of Directors process was perceived as well. And so I'll go through some of the summary of that survey results. We ask about instructions and how clear the instructions are for different stages. So this is an example of the full application stages and the budget template, for example. And as you can see, we got overall pretty good ratings of instructions were fairly clear. All the averages were at about 4.5 to 5. Similarly, for the staff support, we asked if those applicants reached out for staff support, how were they helped, and if there was good timeliness and the professionalism. And I'm happy to report that we got good feedback on that as well. We ask about the time of application. We like to make sure that we're not placing a burden on applicants, but we're also doing our due diligence of making sure that the project is set up for good use of public funds. And we are happy to see that most applicants spent between 4 and 20 hours, which is appropriate for this size of grant program. And most of the responses that were answered about the most time-consuming aspect of the application is the budget narrative and the coordinating with stakeholders, which usually is letters of support, making sure that project partners are all on the same page. And that is what we would expect as well. We also got good feedback that this application process is right-sized, so that's great to hear, and that the public meeting process is also right-sized. So most of the respondents either answered yes or that they're not sure. Maybe because some of these applicants don't go to public meetings for other grants. That's just a guess. We got lots of good feedback about the transparency of the process. As a reminder, this time around, it was a different public meeting process and voting, and I'm happy to report that the 6 responses, most of them say that the process was transparent. This is also what I heard in individual meetings as well, that the process was clear, and even if those were not awarded, they felt that they understood how the process worked. I'd also like to share that on April 30th, we held a grantee gathering. This was to bring together current and past grantees of the Urban Grant Program for an opportunity for them to get to know each other, get to know us, learn more about each other's work. We had over 40 people come, and that was great turnout. I'd also like to thank Director Dominguez for speaking, as well as Andrea McKenzie, as well as Director Chapman and Director Ming Hyde for attending. And this was at the UC Master Gardener's Plot at Marshall Cottle. I add that because in our informal conversations with grantees in our community, we continue to hear really positive feedback about our grant program, and that people feel that they've seen positive changes throughout their times applying, and that they feel really comfortable with staff and feel supported through the process. So for this meeting today, this would be a great time to share any feedback that the directors might have. It could be on topics such as the public meeting process, on future things that the directors would like to see for the guidelines, a grant theme, comments about the program or capital solicitations. At this time, we do not have a timeline or a proposed amount for the next grant program. So there's not a lot of really concrete things to give feedback on. And of course, when we do, I will come back to your board. But in the meantime, if there's things that you can share now, we'll be happy to take it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wanted to kick this off and say, Jackie, I read it and they love you.
Thank you.
So thank you for being such a good representative of the Open Space Authority. It came through in the comments. You were making this program very, very positive and successful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now turn it over to other Director Matthews.
Yes, I have nothing but praise for the program. In the past, especially this year, my first year through. You know, we talk about vistas, we talk about large expanses of land, lots of wildlife, but this really is the grassroots of our program, and it gets the resources right back to the people who in turn will support us throughout the years. So I think it's wonderful. We really touch thousands of lives and encourage them to increase their environmental programs as well. So it's all good, all of it.
Director Kennett.
Yes, that was a great report card, Jackie. He's the valedictorian. And you touch on this, and you're going to be giving us periodic updates. It would be nice to maybe include in a couple of cases some of the success stories from the participants themselves. Love to hear it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Chapman.
I'm gonna echo the thanks, and it was a great party that you threw for all the awards. Did an excellent job, and to Director Kennett's comments, you know, even some photos or, you know, some of the things that in progress are kind of exciting, because that gives us an idea we can kind of follow along their project, and it helps us feel more connected to the awardees.
Great. Thank you so much. And through the chair, just on that note, for anyone listening that might not know, if you'd like to learn more about the projects that the Board of Directors have awarded, on our website, under our grants page, there's a whole page dedicated for each project that has been awarded, all 94 of them now. So there's pictures and quotes and information online too, if you'd like to see that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Caroline, do we have any comments, online comments?
If there are any members of the public who joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Or none.
Thank you. So this is an informational item and there are no actions required, but thank you very much for presenting.
Thank you.
New business number 3, which is the presentation regarding the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Grant Program, a request for approval to submit the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Program grant application. And I believe this is Monica. And just because I had to put it in my mind, this is SALC, S-A-L-C.
Exactly, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. My name is Monica Nanez,
Megan Drager.
External Funding Coordinator. Yeah, and as was said, this is about the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Grant Program, typically known as SALC, and we're here to request approval to submit our grant application. Our main purpose is to seek your approval for this grant application that we'll talk about, but we also wanted to share the past grants that the authority has been successful in being awarded from SALC. The very first, this is a glimpse here, and I'll go into each one of these in the next couple of slides. But the very first one was it was a planning grant for the Santa Clara Valley Ag Plan that actually went to the County of Santa Clara, but we were a co-author. After that, we received 4 SALC acquisition grants that totaled $24 million. And with those $24 million, we've been able to protect 646 acres of agricultural land. This slide is directly from the SALC website. And I'll give you a little bit of information of what SALC is. A statewide grant program funded by the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund through auction revenues from the CAP and INVEST program. And it's administered through the California Department of Conservation and the Strategic Growth Council. SALC supports the state's greenhouse gas reduction goals by protecting agricultural lands from development and conversion to more intensive uses that would result in higher emissions. And this program is currently in the 11th cycle of grant solicitations. So these are the benefits that SALC aims to provide to the state of California. Of course, for helping California to feed itself, water conservation, permanently protecting farmland, carbon neutrality, supporting regenerative agricultural practices, although that's not a requirement, it's a big emphasis of the program, and then habitat protection for migratory birds. And then this next slide, this is for the entire state of California over the 11 grant cycles. SALC has awarded to date $613 million, and they have 3 main types of grants: capacity grants, land use planning grants, and acquisition grants. And the ones we're really interested in are the acquisition grants in orange there. So the agriculture conservation acquisition grants aim to permanently protect croplands, rangelands, and lands that are used for the cultivation of traditional resources. For the purposes of SALC, you'll notice one of them is a agricultural conservation easement, also known as ACE. So for the purposes of SALC, the easement is held to prevent any use that may diminish or impair agricultural production. So there's ACE, and then there's fee title grants. And I'll talk a little bit of each of those.
Salk will fund up to 90% of the value of the agricultural easement. And that, so the land has to be appraised for the value of the easement, and that's how much we can apply for. Even if we're applying for a fee title grant, we could still apply for a maximum of 90% of the value of the easement. Okay, so going back a little bit, the very first grant, Salk grant that indirectly came to the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority was for this agricultural plan that you are probably familiar with. The awardee was the Santa Clara County, but Open Space Authority was a co-author. And it was adopted by the Board of Supervisors in 2018. It has been recognized by several awards. And we frequently use this document. In particular, we frequently use it for some of our grant applications. So it's come in real handy. The 24 million that I mentioned at the very beginning that we received are for these four acquisitions. 3 of these are agricultural easements, and just one of them is a fee purchase. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about, first I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Salk Awards for Agricultural Conservation Easements. The very first one that the Open Space Authority received was for the acquisition of a 79 acres. So this was an easement on the U property in San Martin. It was to protect 79 acres, and we received $1.2 million for that easement. The second one was, you may know this as the Frantoio Grove, but it's also known as the Martin Agricultural Easement. We received $6.3 million to permanently protect 95 acres, and this is also in San Martin. They have a grove of olive trees, and they produce olive oil and sell it at local markets. And then the most recent Salk grant was for Martin 412, also an agricultural conservation easement. And this one was to protect 412 acres of land in unincorporated Gilroy, and will receive $14.8 million. This one we're still right in the middle of this one, haven't closed this grant yet. And this is the grant that was a fee title purchase. It's Laguna 60. We were able to permanently protect 60 acres right in the heart of Coyote Valley. And for this grant, we received $1.8 million. And just a side note about this one too, this is the very first award from Salk that was for a fee title purchase. And so again, I mentioned this before, but wanted to make a note of it. This is again, just 90% of the value of the easement, not the property. So this makes it a little bit trickier because we'd have to raise a significant amount of money to actually purchase the property.
Thank you. One quick thing I'll note from what Monica said, she mentioned there were several categories of SALT grants, planning grants, and so on. I sort of want to add a little bit of a nuance there that we are not eligible to apply for some of those other categories. So that is why, for example, the county was the applicant. We worked with the county on that project. So we're always interested in all kinds of funding opportunities, but depends on the eligibility. All right, I am going to back up and talk a little bit about SALK in general. So as you've been hearing, SALK is a critical source of funding for agricultural land protection. And there aren't that many funding sources for this kind of land, so it's really important. And as you've seen, we've had a good track record. The current grant cycle is funded, they do have funding, but it's the future that is less certain that I want to touch on. As Monica mentioned, SALK is funded through the state's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, or GGRF, which is the state fund where money from the state's portion of the Cap and Invest auction proceeds are deposited. Since 2015, SALK has received 10% of one particular chunk, which is the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities account. And it's part of that because that account has a statutory goal of protecting agricultural lands in support of infill development. But two recent developments could change this. One is that last year, California enacted a bill that allocated $800 million to this account. In the past, that 10% that had been allocated to SALC, would be normally allocated to SALC. But the governor's budget proposal so far, it does not identify SALC funding. So there's some uncertainty whether that 10% is still there, whether that's still going to happen. And secondly, as previously stated, that SALC is funded by GGRF. But recently, the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, has released proposed rulemaking changes that would significantly decrease the revenue into GGRF. And while enabling more oil refinery emissions for refineries in response to global affairs. In addition to this being a loss of critical funds, it would reduce industry incentives to decarbonize. So that's something that a lot of folks are actively working on and responding to. The authority has engaged in both of these items, looking to protect SALC funding in coordination with partners like CalCan and American Farmland Trust, who are actively engaged. Staff have been reaching out to members at the state legislature to reiterate our support for SALC's continuous funding and to express concerns with the potential impact to proposed CARB regulations. So with all that background about what SALC is and concern for the future, wanting to protect it, switching gears, that we have this current application that we're working on. Again, the current cycle, there is funding right now for current this cycle 11 of the SALC funds. This application is for Coyote Fields, had been called O'Connell, and this is a fee title purchase. We expect the total cost to be about $5.3 million. But again, as Monica mentioned, it's 90% of easement value that we can request. So our request through SALC is $2.7 million. The final number is subject to appraisal after award. It's 71 acres in Coyote Valley, very close to all the topics that we've been talking about tonight. On the map there, it's a little hard to see, but it's the yellow outline, and that photo is a view looking straight through to the east. So with that, the recommendation is to authorize the general manager or an assistant general manager to approve the submission of this grant application to the SALC program for a fee title acquisition of 71 acres of farmland in Coyote Valley, and if awarded, to enter into a contract for that funding. Any questions?
Thank you, Megan. Any questions from board members?
I should know this, but I don't. But could you explain briefly the difference between fee title and the easement?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, fee title is essentially more traditionally when you own the land and you own all the rights to the land. An easement, when easements are sold, and they vary a little bit in what the easement includes, but you're essentially removing development rights. So it can no longer be turned into other, uses like housing or business, developments or anything like that. In the case of an agricultural easement, it goes a little further where it's saying it specifically is agriculture that's going to stay there. The way the SALT grant program works is you're committing the land to stay in agriculture. If you want anything else on the land, you need to reserve that in advance. And our application reserves about a small area for in case we ever wanted to allow structures that would support the agriculture, barns or outbuildings or something like that. But otherwise, the rest of the land has to stay in agriculture.
Okay, so we own both. We have clear ownership. It's just that the easement has the strings on it or the restrictions on what we can do with the land.
Right. The owner stays the owner. We just own an easement on top of it. It's sort of on top of the fee ownership in the case of an easement.
Oh.
We are kind of buying the development rights from them. So they still own the property, but they no longer could develop it if they had wanted to.
Thank you.
Dr. Chapman?
I probably know the answer to this, but I think I just want to ask it for the public. Why is CARB changing the rules? Does this have to do with something from the federal government?
I don't know if, Mark, you have a clearer answer than I do. It's definitely in response to current events. I can say that. I certainly know it.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around, you know, this is designated 30 by 30 and we're on the cover and. Yeah, okay.
So through the chair, it's very political. I think that's the best way to put it. There have been a lot of considerations to why those rules have gotten changed over the years. You know, initially it was called cap and trade, and now it's called cap and invest. And cap and trade was set up to gradually reduce the cap on industry so that polluting would continue to decline, and that revenue could be used to do important things around the state that also address climate change, especially through carbon sequestration. But as those rules were gradually relaxed, things like land acquisitions could be a little bit more broadly applied through from the cap and trade funds. So it's been a progression over many years, but these latest actions have really made it much more severe. And the state of California has a lot of financial obligations, including, I think, high-speed rail is one of the recipients of the biggest chunk of funding from Cap and Invest. And so kind of takes the chunk off the top, and then there's less left for other purposes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
please.
sorry to interrupt, but in response to Director Matthews' earlier question about the conservation easement and the fee title, I just wanted to point out, and very good questions and very good response as well in explaining the difference. I just wanted to point out that for this particular property, this would be a fee title acquisition. The explanations about conservation easements and fee title were more broadly about the Sustainable Ag Lands Conservation Program and what kinds of things it funds. And that the funding that we would get is only a portion of the value of that conservation easement, even though we're buying it, we would be buying it in fee.
Yes. Thank you, Mark. What he said. This is a fee title acquisition.
Thank you. And I would like to reiterate that this is time sensitive because we do need, there's funding for the grants, and the grants are due June 17th, correct?
Yes. I was getting.
Applications for the SALT grants are due June 17th, 2026?
Yes,
And
yes,
there was a pot of money
yes,
for June 17th. After that, we don't know.
exactly. We're certainly hopeful there will continue to be funds, but in case there are not, that is why we're so focused on hurrying this to get the application in as soon as possible.
Great. So I'd like to entertain a motion to direct the AGM or the general manager to submit.
Through the chair.
Any public comments?
If there are any members of the public joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on this item, you may raise your hand and I will call on you.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to post-it notes. Yeah, just.
I feel your pain, Chair. So I will make said motion.
Thank you. And this is to direct staff, or direct the general manager or AGM to submit the grant application in for June 17th.
We will strive to submit it by then. There are a few technical things that sometimes hold us up, but our intention is absolutely to get it in by then.
Thank you. Moved by Director Chapman, second by Director Kennett. Clerk, please call the roll or the vote.
Director Kenneth,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Sutherland.
Yes. So that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm so glad I did. Come back and visit us again. Now on to new business, item number 4, which is to accept the preliminary engineer's report for District One, declaring its intention to levy an annual assessment and directing that a public hearing be held to accept comments on the report prior to renewal of Open Space and Maintenance District Number 1. And it is Elizabeth.
It is.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yes, good evening, directors. Elizabeth Loretto, Administrative Operations Manager, filling in for Justina Teen tonight. At the March 27th meeting, the board approved the resolution to direct the preparation of the preliminary engineer's report for District 1. And tonight we are presenting the report as prepared by SCI Consulting Group. The report defines the work and improvements undertaken by the authority, summarizes the benefits to be derived from said improvements, and explains the methodology used to apportion the total assessments to properties. Staff recommends that the board reviews and accepts the preliminary engineer's report. The final engineer's report would be presented at a public hearing scheduled for June 11th, 2026. And with that, I turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from board members? Caroline, any public comments?
If there are any members of the public joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand and I will call on you. There are none.
Thank you.
I move to approve.
Move to approve by Director Kennett, seconded by Director Matthews.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Sure. And I'll read it then. Accept preliminary engineer's report for District 1, declaring its intention to levy an annual assessment and directing that a public hearing be held to accept comments on the report prior to renewal of Open Space and Maintenance District Number 1.
I'm ready. Director Kennett,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Sutherland.
Yes, that passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is the committee meeting summaries. The first one would be from the Administration and Budget Committee. I can report out that we did have a preliminary budget review. And this is setting everything up for our meeting on the 11th. Where we will look at the budget for the fiscal year 26-27. Director Chapman, you also attended that meeting. Did you want to add anything?
Just want to say it was a great presentation. There was a lot of good comments made. And I look forward to, coming back to the board and again, a lot of good discussion.
Great, thank you. The next committee meeting summary would be the Citizens Advisory Committee, and either Lee or Mark. Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take a run at it and invite Mark to jump in with any extra details. The committee heard a very engaging, I think it's fair to say, report from David Mock on the integrated pest management plan or program rather at the authority, with a highlight on the feral pig management. A lot of great questions from our CHC members there. They reviewed a final review of their draft work plan, which will come to your board the second meeting in June. That's June 25th for review and approval. And then Mark delivered a presentation on the battery storage project, solicited some great engagement from the CHC as well.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. I don't have anything to add, just the battery storage item that, as Lee mentioned, was well received, and a number of very good and supportive comments from the CAC members.
Thank you. The next one, the informational report from our general manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, directors. Just a couple of things, and I'll pass it along to other staff. On May 20th, Director Chapman and I attended the groundbreaking for LS Power's Power Santa Clara project downtown. And it was well attended by elected officials and members of LS Power and PG&E and other entities. And there was a nice acknowledgement from the LS Power Director for this area of the collaborative and partnership work that they had done with the Open Space Authority for the southern portion, which resulted in co-location at PG&E's Metcalf substation. So we felt very pleased to be there, and that was it was a great event. The other thing I want to just mention is next week on June 4th, I'm going to be attending a convening in Lafayette in the East Bay regarding the conservation of the Diablo Range. I think I've reported out before that one of our conservation partners, Save Mount Diablo, who started, gosh, 60 years ago or more, preserving land on Mount Diablo. They've now expanded their area of conservation interest to all 12 counties in California that the Diablo Range runs through, from the Carquinez Straits all the way down to Kern County. And so they have a advisors group now of people from those different counties who are coming together to share strategies of how to fund and conserve important lands in the Diablo Range. So looking forward to attending that. Mark?
Thank you, Andrea. So I know there are a number of comments from staff on the other side of the room, but just one thing, and of course, after you're done with your comments, Lee, but just attended a tour on Wednesday that Charlotte and her team organized. I'll let Charlotte talk more about it, but with Visit San Jose staff, they're very interested in helping to promote the important work of the Open Space Authority, and there are things that we started talking about that could be collaborative projects for the future.
And I didn't introduce myself, Lee Rasher, Assistant General Manager. A couple of brief comments. One, by now you should have all received a hard copy of the draft budget work plan for your review at your convenience. In case you haven't heard it enough in the last 3 minutes, June 11th is the big day to hear the budget and hopefully approve at the end of the meeting. And if you have any questions along the way as you go through the document, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Happy to explain and make sure that we cover any additional information in the presentation as well. And then just a teaser, I suppose, if you will. We talked a little bit about grazing and how that helps us with wildfire prevention and management. Coming to you probably in July will be a presentation from Derek Newman regarding prescribed burns. So we're preparing our plans now. We're working with a certified burn boss, and you'll get to hear all of the great details in just a couple of months about our plans for them.
Thank you.
Good evening again, directors. Megan Dreger, Conservation and Strategic Partnerships Manager. I have some good, or at least very hopeful news to share. I know we reported in the past that we submitted a request for community project funding or an earmark through the federal government budget process. Representative Panetta did select our project. They have a limited number they can select, so that's the first step, is being one of those projects. Since then, the House Appropriations Committee has met, and on the good news side, the really good news is our request made it through the House Approps process. So that markup, which is one of the big hurdles in terms of getting to this funding. So it's very hopeful that we would get the funding. Slightly less exciting or less positive part of it, we requested $900,000 for the Coyote Valley Hill, a trail to go up for views and interpretive signs at the top, that kind of thing. When it made it through House Appropriations, they reduced it to $250,000. But it's still $250,000, which if this was a grant, that would be an exciting enough amount. So I'm focusing on that.
Thank you.
And I'll actually jump in with one quick update. And good evening, Directors. Lena Drake, Conservation Policy Specialist. I just want to acknowledge I sent a couple of emails this evening regarding state policy and budget updates. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you.
That's not pretty thorough.
Good evening, Directors. Charlotte Graham, Public Information Manager. As Mark mentioned, we had a great tour earlier this week with Visit San Jose. So we're looking forward to collaborating with their team to connect folks to the Open Space Authority preserves, as well as our upcoming events and happenings through the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan. Tomorrow, the authority is going to share out a blog post announcing the resolution of opposition that was voted on tonight. So please keep an eye out for the link that I'll send around to that. In addition to some other media updates, including a link to a story that ABC7 aired tonight, which we'll watch now. It reached about 100,000 people, a little over live, and there'll be more once the story is available online.
Kristen, for this crossing we're talking about isn't for people, it's for animals as well, including mountain lions and bobcats, and it's planned in the Coyote Valley, south of San Jose. They're the busy Bay Area commuters few of us ever meet, roaming through open spaces like the scenic Coyote Valley, south of San Jose. Nick Perry is working to restore the area with the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority.
This is a biodiversity hotspot. So some of the animals that we're working to restore the habitat for, we call them our focal species, include animals like mountain lion, which we want to have move through the landscape.
But often the invisible pathways traveled by species like mountain lions, bobcats, and badgers lead to dangerous and sometimes fatal crossings. Busy corridors like Highway 101 or Monterey Road bordering the open space.
And nobody likes to feel like they're going to hit an animal with their cars.
Marian Vernon is an environmental scientist with the Peninsula Open Space Trust, which partners to manage Coyote Valley. She's part of a team that's developed plans for a special wildlife crossing, a protected tunnel-like path underneath the roadway. But figuring out where to place it takes some environmental detective work.
We've tracked bobcats using radio collars, we've done wildlife camera trapping, and what we've learned is that Fisher Creek is really important for animal movement. We call it the Bobcat Highway.
The Bobcat Highway, otherwise known as Fisher Creek, is a shallow waterway that runs up the spine of Coyote Valley, carved out of an ancient marsh more than a century ago.
So this image is from the 19-teens, and it's showing the in-progress draining of the freshwater wetland. So the land was transformed for agricultural purposes.
Bobcats and mountain lions still follow the freshwater path, which eventually veers off toward a larger watershed nearby. Marian Vernon says the planned underground passage would be similar to wildlife crossings recently installed in Santa Cruz County, not only keeping the animals near Coyote Valley safer, but also expanding a kind of regional habitat highway, allowing species like mountain lions to roam from the Santa Cruz Mountains to the Diablo Range.
So by creating wildlife crossings, we are allowing animals like mountain lions to move and find new mates, and that helps with the overall health of the population and our biodiversity.
The plans are still in the approval stages, but managers say the project is another example of the far-reaching benefits that open spaces like Coyote Valley can deliver for the entire region.
This is really a dream come true that over 1,600 acres of the valley floor are now permanently protected for people and for wildlife.
A Bay Area jewel that could become safer for some of the species that rely on it most.
Wow. Thank you. Who wants to follow that?
Not admin. In all honesty, we didn't have any updates tonight. You've heard a lot about what we're working on, AKA budget.
Thank you. Any other comments from staff? Board member reports. I'll go to you first, Director Kenneth.
Don't have a whole lot. Nothing locally, although last weekend I was up at Yosemite after the administration stopped the. Can't believe it's like watching the cars trying to get across the toll plaza for the Bay Bridge. And if you know Yosemite, the lines trying to get into the park are over 5 miles. And the park's not big enough for all those people. But there they were. I took a hike with my, once a year I go with my sons, my nephews and my sons-in-law. We have a guys weekend up there. That was our weekend. And I showed a couple of pictures around. We met a little buddy, and I'll show you the pictures if you want to look. There's a little yearling bear that followed us on the trail at Yosemite at Hetchy. And he was a cute little guy, and he was he just wanted, he just got booted out of his den because he's a yearling. And was all doing, we tried to get selfie, we got a picture of him, we were trying to get a selfie, then some other people came from the trail, they started yelling bear, 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 poor guy took off. So I have no selfies with the bear, but I have a picture. That's my report.
Thank you. Dr. Matthews.
Well, this week I took a wonderful tour of the Sierra Vista Preserve with Andrea and Lee and Derek, and I've been up there several times. I've hiked down it. I would never hike up it, but it is spectacular, and I'm so proud that we have it, and it's such a good choice. And we mostly hear about Coyote Valley, but I think this area, which is the East Foothills, is the most visible to the most many people in Santa Clara Valley. And not only is the view spectacular when you get up there, you see the entire valley and the bay, but the view is spectacular from down below as well, because it's our green foothills. So it was really, really a wonderful tour. I learned that it's, I believe, the most visited of all our preserves. The people on the east side love it. They love to go up there and watch the sunset, and some of them love to go up there and make mischief. So it means more work for us, more litter, but a spectacular job. It was completely clean. It was great. It's a matter of educating the public, and this, like the urban grants, this creates support for our agency that more and more people have access to it and can enjoy it. So I really love it. It's a beautiful spot.
Thank you. Dr. Chapman.
Well, I attended the Ellis Tower groundbreaking with Andrew McKenzie. That's a warm, it's hard to believe the weather, because that day was warm and we were sweating, and now we're like, well, there's the climate changes, not real, right? I want to thank Lena for her email, your wonderful report. I really like getting those. It's part of my job that I let go of 8 years, but I had that policy side, and I really do appreciate getting those updates and kind of know where you are on that. And that helps us in conversations with the community, or, if we're running with elected officials, if we can help lobby, please let me know. That's important. So I'm going to piggyback on Charlotte, because on June 1st, the Special District Association, which I was elected chair, is going to do a presentation from Aaron Hebert and BTA and Post on updating the wildlife corridor. So that would be great to get that link if we could send it out. Yeah, Carolyn, I want to thank you again. She's helped me kind of coordinate. So we got the speakers all together. We got the agenda set, so it should be going out. And it's Zoom, so if anybody wants to attend, you're welcome to, to attend the meeting and, watch the presentation. But I think it's a good way of showcasing the work we're doing, especially in partnership with the other agencies. And, having that media link is like, wow, okay, let's include that too, because I think the special district members will appreciate that. It'll provide some context and questions. So anyway, that's my update.
Thank you. And I wanted to add that by chance, Director Dominguez and I were at the same event, and it was the Makla Art Auction. But just for everybody who's a director to understand, they introduced us as, and they mentioned that we were there as directors for the Open Space Authority. So please remember, when you go out to public events like that, to sign, to let the people that who are hosting the event know that you're a director and you represent the Open Space Authority. I think the more subtle ways that we are seen out in the community, the more powerful we become and more present we become. So I think that's it, unless there are any other comments. Oh, I'm sorry, legal counsel.
Just an afterthought?
Never.
Shockingly, I have no report.
Thank you. Then with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:15. Thank you all very much.